Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. On a beautiful May the 1st, 2020, Rondo Deportes Big C will be taking care of some business down south on a beautiful May the 1st of 2020. It's all fair and love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Also very excited every time we get the chance to do our part. Everybody says don't just have a problem, have a solution. The solution for the Veterans Crisis Hotline is really there for people who need help. I love being a part of that solution. Just giving out that number is what we can do. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. It doesn't have to be the person going through it. It can be somebody that knows them, and it's always great to reach out and give somebody some help. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. And when you reach out to them, just tell them that Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV. Just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, sports events do it, and you can watch TV work for your real estate the same way it works for everybody else that's doing something in the world of television. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And I really appreciate that opportunity of having real estate as part of a business, and being able to reach out to television stations and have them bring you on and promoting what they're doing as well. And it's just amazing. They're also affiliated with the San Francisco Giants. It's about mixing sports and business, and with Big C Sports can do all of it. Really appreciate the way things are growing with that. There's a lot of things that have happened on this beautiful May the 1st. I've been in a training all day, and for mortgage training all day, and I love to do both. When you have real estate and you also have the world of the sports business, you have information coming out of Major League Baseball. The Indians reliever is suspended 80 games for PED violations. Now, that's called personal enhancement, whatever you want to call it. I won't say the substance because I don't know what the substance is. But everybody, his name is Emmanuel Claus. And when you have a guy that's suspended by 80 games in Major League Baseball, that was today. Welcome to May 1st, I guess. It's all fair, love, and war. But you don't want to be caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And you definitely get caught with your hand in the cookie jar when you're using performance-enhancing substances. But who doesn't do it? I remember a baseball player, professional league baseball player, friend of mine told me, Charlton, listen, I can go out and get a job making $50,000 a year, or I can take these PEDs and make $5 million to $20 million a year. So which one would you choose? I know everybody has their own choice. I kind of feel bad for the young man. It's amazing. He was acquisitioned by Cleveland in the offseason trade, sent two-time Cy Young winner Corey Kluber to the Texas Rangers, and the commissioner's office said the 22-year-old Clace tested positive for a Balderone. Now, it's an anabolic steroid. I know there are people who can rub things on their body and they can get better. There's guys who can inject things into their backside, and they can get bigger. But man, when you realize the unemployment rate in the United States is in the millions, and you realize that if you're an athlete and you have the opportunity to make several $1,000,000 in one season, there are guys who may only make about $2 million in their lifetime. You have baseball players that can make several $1,000,000 in one season. And who's to say that they would not be tempted to do that, especially with so many mass layoffs going on now. So his suspension is not gonna begin until the start of the 2020 regular season, which we all know has been delayed by COVID-19, by the pandemic. And it's amazing because if the season doesn't cover 80 games, then the Major League Baseball and the Players Association, they're still working out and wondering if it will carry over to the 2021 season. I think that's only fair. If you have a suspension of 80 games, whether you have to do half this year and the other half next year, then that's, to me, it just makes sense. But I kind of feel for the young man. He was only scheduled to make $564,000. Not only, but that's not a lot of money compared to a lot of the guys like Mike Trout that's making his money. And you know there's so many. Mike Trout makes $400 million in his contract, even though it's not in 1 year. It's still out there. I don't know what to say about baseball players. We know that a lot of guys are doing whatever they can to get back into the game. And if you can make a team, you can change your life. And I know there'll be a lot of people that will jump on the young man and say, I can't believe how foolish he is to do something so crazy. And then you get caught and you're suspended. You notice they said he was suspended 80 games. They never said that he was banned from baseball. There's a difference. Who wouldn't, in this climate, who wouldn't take a chance on getting $580,000 or $560,000? And that's not including whatever bonuses may be out there, or even if you have guys that are getting these sponsorships that come. So it's all part of love and war, man. I feel bad for the kid, but I understand. There's a lot of people who've been laid off, furloughed, and those might be the same people that say, I can't believe that guy would do something so dumb. Well, look in your bank account, and if you don't find over $500,000, then how can you blame him? Because that's just reality. There's a lot of things happening in society that people want to just point the finger. But I can really understand he's 22 years old. It's not like he's 42 years old, but it's all fair in love and war. I want to just swing it over to something that, man, I think about the national skipper, Martinez, person of color. He reveals, the rings will be revealed for the fans. They won the World Series last year with the Washington Nationals. And to me, they were behind in every series. And to me, it was a meteoric rise. The team that one time was in Montreal and came back to the United States after being in the World Series when they were the Washington Senators way back in the 20s. And now they're the World Series champions. Nobody knows for sure when and where, or truly if even the Major League Baseball will play games in 2020. But the Washington Nationals manager, Dave Martinez, he feels really certain about one thing for sure, that they're the champions. And his team will wait to properly mark his World Series championship with spectators in the seat. But based on science, that may not happen until next year. And this is my own thought. If you won a championship and you want to reveal your rings and your banner and whatever it is, don't wait until there are people in the seats. Baseball's not promised to anybody. I mean, nothing's promised to anyone. If you're good enough to go out and play a game, why make people wait? Especially with what's going on with the COVID-19. You don't know who's affected by it, if they have loved ones that might be affected by it, that may not be able to see a 2021 celebration. If you have the chance to do it now, you just do it now. That's my opinion, but everybody has their own opinion in that. It is a big deal. It's the first time they won a championship since the 20s, and they've never won it as the Nationals. It'd be great to let people see it right now. I know everybody has their own thoughts on that, but don't make people wait. There are players who were on the Nationals last year that have been traded. There are players that are on the Nationals this year that may be traded by next season. If you get a chance to let guys play, I would say let them play. And I think congratulations to them. I'm more of a West Coast guy, but I'm not really partial, if that makes any sense. That's kind of double speak. I'm not West Coast, Big C, but I'm not partial either. I am more partial to the West Coast. That's just my opinion. I want to say, when I was a little boy, I played Little League Baseball. I think I played it for 2 years. And I was an all-star. I was a pitcher. I played third base. One time I was hit in the eye by a bounce ball. I wasn't good at grounding the ball, but I learned to catch better after the ball popped up off the dirt and hit me in the eye. And I also played outfield. I played right field, center field, and left field. But I really loved when I was pitching, because at one game I struck out 11 batters in one game. I have some family members that said, no, that was 11 batters in the whole season. But as far as I remember, it was 11 batters in one game, and isn't that all that matters, the guy that's throwing the pitch? So I did that in one game. And one thing that I recall, I was 11 years old, and I remember how proud I felt because we won that game, and we were not favored to win our championship, but we won. And to be a part of that goes back to being 11. There's a lot of young people, they use sports as a way to open doors and realize that you never know if you're going to have the chance to play it again. These young kids, for Little League Baseball in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, this year's Little League World Series and the championship tournaments and 6 other Little League divisions, they've been canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic. I understand it. I think anybody, as long as you're conscious of what's going on, they don't have every player from Little League in the hospital recovering from COVID-19 or trying to fight COVID-19. That would be a horrible situation if we allowed that to happen. But if you realize this has never happened before, we have to go back to the days of war. I think it was World War II, the last time they had canceled a Little League baseball game. So Little League president, his name is Stephen Kerner, announced the cancellation on Facebook Live. It was actually announced on Thursday from the league headquarters in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, saying it would be impossible to hold the events amid ongoing restrictions on large gatherings. And it's just amazing how the Little League, they're using science to make sure they keep those young people safe. And we have some sports leagues, even the commissioner down in the SEC is saying we don't have to be in agreement with all the other Power 5 conferences. Maybe we can have our own football programs. I think that's egregious. The life of a teenage boy or someone who might be 11 or 12 years old, they're just as valuable as anybody else. And when you have commissioners around sports and they're trying to play games, and even though we have a cancellation of Little League World Series, there's still a lot of people that want to play games because it's so important to them. But what they're not advocating for is to have their own parents, grandparents, their spouse, their own children, and maybe some of their coworkers get together with their grandparents, parents, their spouse, girlfriends, boyfriends, or children, and have a nice company picnic where they have maybe 100 people or 200 people to get together, because that's what they're trying to do with football. If you have football, in a lot of those programs in the South, they have at least 100 players that suit up on a team. So some guys are not going to play, but they suit up 100 plus teams like Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, USC. Those programs, they can have 100 guys on the sideline. So even if you don't have 70, 80, 90, 100,000 people in the stands, you still have people that could be affected by it. So what is it about our sports leagues that are willing to expose high schools? Maybe not high schools because that's still on pause, on lockdown, but they're definitely telling you, if you're a year out of high school, think about it. You could be a high school senior this year, you haven't graduated yet, and you have some college football conferences that are saying that we want to have fall football if we can pull it off. So they're in essence talking to some 17-year-old high school kids that may turn 18 by the time next year the fall semester enrolls kids to come on the campus. And we know that some campuses, we were talking about Texas Tech just yesterday, they want to allow kids, those teenage boys, to come on the campus. Some kids will be 17 years old on their first day or first week on the college campus in the fall. Some don't turn 18 until later in September. Well, a lot of these schools will start the enrollment in late August. So if you have the heart for kids and you're saying we're going to postpone Little League Baseball, a lot of those kids are 11 and 12 years old. but you're going to bring on a 17, 18-year-old kid and let them play for your program, and you're ignoring why Little League Baseball this World Series has been canceled for the first time since 1947. It's the first time it's been canceled since August of 1947. Think about that. That was next year will be the 75th playing of the tournament. That's a milestone pushed back up until 2022. So what's the thinking of people that care about young kids between maybe 11 and 12 years old? But if you're a 17 or 18-year-old kid and you're part of the SEC or the ACC or whatever conference, the Big 12, they're all pushing to get kids to play football this year because of the money. So I want to ask you parents, as Big C and I were talking about yesterday, what parent is going to tell their 11 or 12-year-old child to go out and play Little League Baseball, or let's petition to play Little League Baseball? Let's get a petition signed so they'll stop looking at science because I really want to see you boys run around the bases. Well, when those 12-year-old kids are 5 years older, they're 17. You have kids enrolling in college campuses that are 17 years old in the first couple of days or maybe even the first couple of weeks of that school enrolling. And now you're saying if you're a college commissioner, an athletic department, that you want to take those 17 and 18-year-old kids and you want to enroll them into your program so they can play sports. For what? You're not doing it for your own children. You're not doing it for your grandparents. You're not doing it for anybody but that dollar. And the sad thing about it, the kids that they're willing to expose, they don't get any money. They don't get any of the money. So when we say, I can't believe that the player for that we just talked about, Major League Baseball suspended for PEDs, and he's making $500,000 a year by making the Major League Baseball roster. Maybe if he's not, he's going to be down in the minors, making $1,500 to $2,000 maybe every month. So he took the chance. And people will say, I can't believe this guy would take PEDs to make $500,000 a year. Juxtapose that to these athletic commissioners down in the SEC and down in the Big 12 and the ACC that are saying we're going to get our young boys. That means the parents who had those children, they're going to take your kids and put them out there together. 100 strong on the sideline. They don't have 70,000 or 80,000 or 90 or 100,000 fans in the stands. But they have 100 kids on the sideline. That's not including coaches. A lot of coaching staffs have 40 coaching staff. You have the coach and the assistant coaches. Maybe they have between 20 and 40, depending on how big your program is. And now here's the tough part. They're going to practice social distancing when the offensive linemen, they're stacked about a foot apart from each other. Defensive linemen, depending on if they're running the 4-3 defense or the 34 defense, or they got a goal line stand, they're all about a foot away from each other. Maybe they have a yard space gap between each other. And now you're going to have a quarterback put his hands under the crotch of the center, Big C, and he's going to turn around and hand off to his running back. How do you practice social distancing? Okay, maybe you're going to run the option. You're going to practice social distancing, but when you have your offensive lineman taking on the defensive lineman, there's a lot of blocking going on, a lot of collisions going on at that point of contact, Big C. You have sweat, sometimes snot, sometimes blood. That exchanges. Sweat is going to be all over the place, especially these southern states. You got humidity right around 80 to 90% humidity. Temperature might be around 90 to 100 degrees. And it's not going to be the coaches running around on the field. It's not going to be the athletic directors running around on the field. It's going to be those boys. A lot of those boys are African American. Who have we heard were the highest hit and affected by COVID-19? It's been the African American population. Why is that? The lack of access to good health care? So let's say those kids get out there and do that free labor for the schools, this good old boy institution, that kicking and screaming that they don't want to pay these young boys. They're just for our entertainment. Don't you want to get out there and tackle somebody? Can't you just smell it? Can't you feel it in your bones? We're going to give you a hat We're going to give you some shoes and some T-shirts that say our university's names on it. And you're going to go out there and you're going to play for free, boy. So let's say these kids go out there and do it, and their parents are dumb enough to let them. Why? Because the good old boy boosters want to see some young black kids run around on the football field for their entertainment. And a couple of white kids too. But we know, if you look at the top Power 5 conferences, and you look at the teams that are playing for national championships, those teams are comprised of about 80% African American kids. You can Google it. So when those kids go back home, they match the demographic of the highest affected group of people when it comes to COVID-19. Think about that. So when they go home and they have elderly people around them, and what if we get to the point where maybe somebody gets infected? Because we don't know enough how to not stop it other than social distancing. You can't social distance when you're playing football. I think Little League Baseball, think about this, Little League Baseball, the people that run Little League Baseball, and I really appreciate it when you have them come out and say we're gonna cancel the World Series. That's Little League President Stephen Kerner. But you don't have college programs with the same common sense. So they're willing to send those young boys back to the hardest hit demographic group in the United States for dealing with COVID-19, with the history of high blood pressure. Maybe some people haven't had access to proper medical care. And when they go to the doctor, maybe the doctor says, oh, you're fine, and just go home and pray on it. Just go pray, go ahead, relax, and you'll be okay. And I don't want to see that happen to anybody, especially people that I love. And I just say again, you can't leave it up to the school presidents. You can't leave it up to the athletic directors. Those guys are making money off of your free labor and the free labor of your kids. They couldn't care less if you catch COVID-19. It's their deeds, not their words. By the words, they're going to say, oh, we want to make sure we do everything to keep our kids safe. If they believe that, have them get their parents and grandparents, their spouse, their own children and grandchildren, and all the groups of people that have this push to bring people back before science figures it out, and have them do a company picnic, shaking hands, hugging each other, having libations. Have them do that, because that means they put the money where the mouth is. They won't even do that, but they're going to have these young black boys out there playing on the football field in 75 to 85 to 95% humidity down in the south, and maybe temperatures right around 90 to 100 degrees. And they're going to be willing, they're willing to put you and your health at risk. For what? For money. If you don't believe that, I gave you two propositions. Have them get together with their wives and kids and grandparents first, and their friends and the good old boys. Have them get their assistant coaches together with their wives and kids, and all of the people making money off of your free labor, off of your butt. Have them get them together. Have them all get together. They can do it for the first couple of weeks of school and see if no one tests positive for COVID-19. They can go back to their families, their in-laws, their loved ones, and they're asking you to do it. Have them be the guinea pig. You got to get your head out of the sand. I just hope and pray that people, because you see, Little League Baseball, they said, we're going to cancel this over health. And you have college presidents and college coaches. I just want to say this too. Little League Baseball, for the most part, those are young white kids. I'm saying it because it's true. Those are predominantly young white kids that are part of the Little League. For the most part, the majority of them are Caucasian. So why is there a bigger push to protect Caucasian kids over young African American kids? You want to look at the roster of some of those teams in the SEC and just do the paperback test. A lot of those kids are kids of color. In fact, most all of them, especially when it comes time to having your starting players. So the guys on the sideline that are not starting players, yeah, they're going to come in contact also, but they're not the ones being tackled. They're not the ones down in the line of scrimmage figuring that out. And to me, at some point in time, we got to stop saying it's up to the administration, it's up to the head coaches, it's up to the athletic departments. You got TV stations that will not even sit together in the same room to do a TV broadcast for sports. You can see they're doing it like Big C Sports now. They're calling in on the phone. They're thousands of miles away from each other, or at least, hundreds of miles away. They won't get together and sit 3 feet away from each other in the studio. I just told you, offensive linemen, when they line up, they're about a foot apart from each other. The D line and the 34 defense, maybe they got about a 2-yard gap. But they got a front man line, a goal line stand. They're all about two. What are they about? Maybe a foot away from each other, if not even closer than that. They're willing to push young black boys out to play football for free labor for white men's entertainment, because the white guys are the ones getting paid from the presidents on down to the athletic directors. But they want to cancel Major League Baseball. What's the difference? You can't say, oh, these boys are young, they're 11 and 12 years old, we can't put them at risk, but someone 17 and 18 you can. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me. Most of the kids, they're clamoring to get you back into playing sports. They're not even able to make money from it yet. They're not grown men yet. If you say, well, what about baseball or basketball? Those are grown men. If they're willing to put themselves on the line and their health on the line because they don't read about science, or they just can't wait to get out there and please you, then that's their choice. But I'm talking about young people. And for these universities that say, we're going to push for the opening of sports, we're not going to have any fans in the stands. So if it's not safe for the fans, if you look down on the SEC conference, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12 conference, because those are primarily the conferences that are doing it, most of their fan base is Caucasian. I would say at least 80%. So they're saying they're not willing to risk 80% of the fan base because of COVID-19, but they're willing to risk 80% of the athletes. They're in the same air. They're in the same stadium, Big C. So why is there a push to get the black athletes out there to perform, but they're going to cancel events where the kids are mostly white? And that's a color thing. Just like why is it hitting African Americans so hard? Because of social distancing is not being practiced as much. A lot of people may live in closer confined communities. I mean, think about it. What's the difference? If you can have an empty stadium, that means you feel that you're going to respect science when it comes to the stadium, because you don't want to get 80,000 people in a stadium. Why not? Don't they want to see entertainment? But you're thinking about their health. And most of them are Caucasian. Most of the athletes for these Power 5 schools, they're African American. And there's more of a push to get the African American kid out there to entertain these white families and the white institutions, from the presidents to the coaches, the athletic director. And that money does not go into the black families of these young boys that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's a fact. So if you're a parent of a black child, and even white too, but for the white parents, they've already canceled Little League Baseball. But they're trying to push the black athletes out there to play sports. If you're a parent of an African American child, and you're willing to be part of that guinea pig experiment, that's your choice. But you can't say you didn't know better, because they won't do it for Little League. But they'll do it for your kid. I just think that's something that's so glaring. I wanted to point it out. To me, you have to close your eyes not to see it. So I really appreciate Little League Baseball. I mean, everybody loves the sport. Along with Little League World Series, which is held in South Williamsport, the other events canceled were the World Series of Little League Softball in Greenville, North Carolina, Junior League Baseball, Taylor, Michigan, Junior League Softball in Kirkland, Washington, Senior League Baseball in Easley, South Carolina, and Senior League Softball in Sussex County, Delaware. I just asked the people, the parents, if you have a child, 17, 18-year-old boy, son, and they're not going to let girls play football, even though it's rare that they have them play football, but they're not looking at putting young white lives at risk. You just think about that. They canceled Little League Baseball. Predominantly young white kids are involved in that, but they're trying to push for college football, and those boys are 17 and 18 years old. Doesn't make any sense, and it really, I just say, if you have your eyes closed to it, then I don't know what else to say to you. We're going to take the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what happens in the world of sports, and also put the families first. Put the kids first. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on the apps that I love called Spreaker.com. Also, Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he will do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate the way things are going with that. Also, very happy to just make sure that people understand that we have a Valley Homes Weekly TV show on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. Really can't wait until baseball comes back when it's safe. When it's safe. Like Little League, when it's not safe, they postpone it or cancel it. I don't want to see any baseball player get stricken with a virus that's avoidable by practicing that social distancing that they tell us about, Dr. Fauci, especially in Surgeon General Jerome Adams. I mean, everybody's talking about it. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put your property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. You can watch TV work for your real estate too. It's all possible. It's all possible. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Really appreciate that. So just going back to the World League, the Little League World Series being canceled, I think that's smart to keep players safe, the young boys. But college boys, those young boys are important too. Their families matter too. They all matter. I would just hope that we can keep in mind that everybody wants to stay, #1, safe. We want our children to be safe. We teach them to do the best we can to just pay attention to what's going on in their environment. You know, stay away from bad behavior. Stay away from bad behavior. Stay away from bad people. We all know that it's possible. You just got to make that choice. There's something that happened with in the judge sides with the U.S. soccer team in equal pay lawsuit. We know that oftentimes men are paid a lot more money than women are paid for the same type of performance. And in fact, the U.S. soccer team are a lot better than the men have been. But this just came out today. A federal judge in California ruled in favor of the United States Soccer Federation on most of the key points in the ongoing wage discrimination lawsuit brought by members of the U.S. women's national team player pool, dealing with potentially, fatal setback in the players. In the high-profile case, everybody says they want equal pay. Just like a lot of these college athletic departments, they say they want to keep kids safe. Out of one side of the neck. The other side of the neck, they're saying, we want our kids to play football right now. I mean, right here, right now. So players in the lawsuit that was filed on two grounds. First, that the U.S. Soccer violated the Equal Pay Act by paying them less than the members of the men's national team. And no one believes that's fair, so why does it happen if it's not fair? It's happening. No one agrees with it. But some of the men who do it, and the courts are saying, no, it's not going to happen anymore. The second reason is that the Federation discriminated against them under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, specifically with regard to workplace conditions. So I know that people say, it's much ado about nothing. Maybe those women are just complaining, and whatever it is, people say whatever they got to do to justify not paying women equal money. Today's ruling cited undisputed facts from 2015 to 2019 that the women's national team averaged $220,747 per game in total payments for a total of $24.5 million, while the men's national team averaged $212,639 per game for a total of $18.5 million. And the figure does not include the compensation the women's players receive from the U.S. Soccer for the play in the National Women's Soccer League. Everybody knows that for women, if you're going to go out and you're going to ask for money, it's all about the contract. And we say, well, it's not going to be equal pay. Well, why not? It should be equal pay, but oftentimes you got to fight for it. Nobody's going to give you anything. You oftentimes got to fight for it. Sometimes people just won't do right by you. That's why we have the courts. And I think everybody, I mean, I can't say that rightfully saying I think everybody agrees that we should all have equal pay. That's not the case. Not everybody feels that, Big C. That's why we don't have equal pay. I know we just finished with the NFL draft. A lot of players from first, second, and third rounds. And then some players that were able to sign on. And I know they made their lives and their dreams come true. And really, really happy for a lot of people. When you think about the United States in sports, like what is it about the United States that makes sports so important? It's an important part of American culture. If you think about it, American football is the most popular sport, in which the United States followed by baseball and basketball, ice hockey, which make up the fourth major sport. You have soccer, we have tennis, there's wrestling, there's auto racing, which is going to be going on, I believe, sometime in the first 2 weeks of May. They're going to do that without people in the stands. You got soccer and tennis, the wrestling, auto racing, arena football. You have field lacrosse, the volleyball. So many things that we love based on Olympic Games, World Championships, and other major competitions. In respect of the sports, the United States is the most successful sports nation in the world. That makes them the most successful sports nation in the universe. Everybody loves sports. And when you think about how it builds character, you don't want to rush people back to playing a game unless it's scientifically proven that they're safe. I remember playing sports, even when I played Pop Warner football to Little League baseball, up to high school and college, and then being around professional athletes. Everyone has to take a physical. If you don't pass a physical, you can't play. Why? Because they won't let you play unless you're safe. Safe, and they protect you from yourself. There are times when guys were told you can't play because your blood pressure's too high. Or you can't play because you're diabetic and we got to get you on some insulin. Whatever it is. People don't know what they have until they get tested for it. There's a lot of people that don't know what they have until they get tested for it. That's part of this COVID-19. They want more testing. So when we have sports, every athlete has to pass a physical. And that makes it so even more egregious that they're willing to put kids at risk when it's COVID-19, especially the young black athletes. And that's painful to say it, but it's true. Somebody has to say it. Most of these people clamoring to see you get back in the game, and I can't wait to see you play a sport, most of those guys are Caucasian. And even those guys, they're sitting in a booth by themselves. They're not sitting 3 feet away from their partner or their co-host. If they do it in the studio, they're not going to be the ones sweating blood, sweat, and tears. They're going to do it from a distance for somebody's entertainment, but not the athletes doing it for free on the college level. Based on revenue, the 4 major professional sports leagues in the United States, Major League Baseball, you think about that, National Basketball Association, National Football League, and the National Hockey League. The market for professional sports in the United States alone is about $70 billion. $70 billion. $70 billion. That's a lot of money. A lot of people got to pass their physicals when you're looking at $70 billion. $70 billion is a lot of money. That's roughly 50% larger than all of Europe. We know soccer's huge in Europe. They even have some basketball leagues in Europe for women and men's leagues. It's big in Europe. In the Middle East, that's including bigger than the Middle East and Europe combined. That's bigger than Africa combined. All 4 enjoy wide-ranging domestic media coverage, and they're considered to be preeminent leagues in the respective sports in the world. Although the American football does have a substantial following in other nations, of those leagues, the teams that represent the Canadian leagues, like the CFL or even the NHL, and all 4 of the most financially lucrative sports leagues in the world. I mean, it's so important that we love it so much. And when people clamor to get sports back, I understand it. There's a lot of people in the United States of America, they can't wait to get it back because it's just part of our fabric. It's part of who we are. At the same time, no athlete can play a game without passing a physical. So let's keep that in mind as we want to brush people back to seeing if they can play a sport. I think it's so important. You think about some of the professional teams and all the major sports franchises in the United States, they operate as franchises within a league, meaning that a team may move to a different city. We just saw the Oakland Raiders. They're moving from Oakland to Las Vegas. Talking to a friend of mine today from Las Vegas that has a TV station, and he's saying Las Vegas is pretty much like a ghost town because of COVID-19. Not because people don't want to be on the strip. Not because people don't want to see boxing and MMA. We all love it. I mean, I love the sports world. It's part of what, it's cathartic for me. It kept me on the right path when I was a young boy. I saw a lot of young people, and a lot of them make good choices. There were some that did not make the best of choices, and oftentimes, if they were involved in a sport, they were around discipline, they had good tutelage, and they had the ability to feel like they're part of a team. And it was those players that tend to do better, at least in the high school level. I'm not saying it covered all through life, but I know when they were younger, it gave them the chance to do better in life, and I really appreciate what sports has done for a lot of people. I really appreciate that. So sports are particularly associated with education in the United States. Most high schools and universities, they've organized sports to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. March Madness is $1 billion on its own for basketball. I know they're missing it. And I know they want to get it back. And I do too. But I want to make sure, just like the physical, if you don't pass the physical, then you can't play sports. I would like to see them make sure that we're safe, especially for a lot of these young kids that may not have the ability to look out for themselves and make the best choices. So college sports and competitions play an important role in American sporting culture. College basketball and college football, they're as popular as sporting events as any professional sports in the country. Think about this. The major sanctioning body for college sports is the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association. You think about that. And that's the same association that's pushed hard to make sure that athletes don't get paid for their labor. They're not saying the administrators don't get paid. They're not saying for the coaches not to get paid. They're not saying for the athletic directors not to get paid. They're saying for the athletes. Isn't that something? I know there's talk of it changing, but they've been doing it kicking and screaming. And I love the sports. I know everybody has their own opinion. Some people say we don't need sports. I do like sports. I believe that sports is important. I think as long as we have the ability to go out and entertain people, I love seeing sports. I love the fact that we have it there as a way to entertain people. Not everybody cares about it. I understand that. But there's a lot of people that do, and it's kept a lot of young people on the right track. And if you have any affiliation with a sporting program, whether it's soccer, we have this little mom and pop soccer leagues, whether it's AAU basketball, Little League baseball, some kids, that's the only time that they will ever play an organized sport in their lives. They're not going to do it for pay as they grow up, but we have the opportunity to make sure that everybody can get in on being a part of that. That's what I love about it. Everybody has a choice to go out and fight for their team, to go out and fight for their teammates, to be part of a fraternity that's very rare in the United States, but we know it brings so many people together. And I love that part about the American society and the world of sports. Everybody has an idea, just like drag racing. People want to race their cars, and they love the sound of the cars, and that happens all over this country. But there's nothing like being on a team and having the chance to do it with team and people that you'll think about for the rest of your life. I know that's why it's important, and a lot of those kids feel bad that they've had the World Series, Little League World Series canceled. But I think every parent and every fan would rather see it canceled as opposed to having kids in the hospital. To me, that's important. There's a program that I watch called Ballers. It's on HBO. It features Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think it's a great show. In fact, they even have a character in there by the name of Big C. I said, Big C, you're making a TV show with The Rock? You know, some of the things, it seems like some things that we do, it pops up everywhere. He was also driving a big Cadillac Escalade, Big C. I think it's all fair in love and war, as we say. But most sports in the United States, it evolved out of what they say European practices, whether you look at how basketball and volleyball and skateboarding and snowboarding are American inventions, some of which become very popular in other countries. Lacrosse and surfing, that arose in Native American and Native Hawaiian activities that predate Western contact. So there's a lot of people that love what they've done in the world of sports to bring people together. Going to horse racing remained the leading sport from 1780 to 1860, back in that era, especially in the South, down where you are, Big C. You know, you guys don't have to pay the horses either. I think they've taken the way they've learned to exploit college kids. They treat them like horses. They don't pay horses either. They just give them some oats and some whatever was oats and whatever. They get oats and corn and barley and all that stuff. That's what they give the horses. They don't have to figure out how to pay those horses for running around. And they do the same thing with athletes too. I love so much about the sports world and what it's done. I think about even when you deal with the Olympics. I remember going back. You think about the Olympics. The United States sent athletes to every celebration of the modern Olympic Games except the 1980 Summer Olympics, and that was hosted by the Soviet Union in Moscow. It boycotted it because of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and we know the Soviets don't care. They've invaded Afghanistan, also try to infringe on the United States elections, and a lot of things too. We know about the Cuban Missile Crisis, but you got to stand up to people no matter what. The United States has won gold at every game in which it has competed. More gold overall than any other medals. The United States, more than any other country in the Summer Games, also has the second most gold in overall medals in the Winter Olympic Games, only trailing Norway. From the mid-20th century to the late 1980s, the United States mainly competed with the Soviet Union at the Summer Games, and with the Soviet Union and Norway and East Germany at the Winter Games. Think about that. Everybody from the United States has always loved competition. And that's why I know we want to get back to sports. We want to get people out there playing again. But we have to make sure that everybody's safe. We got to keep our athletes healthy. There's nothing wrong with doing what the Olympics has done. When an athlete gets hurt, what do? You take a year off. You go through rehab. You make sure they're safe before you put them out there to play again. Big C, that has to make sense on some level. I just bring up some things that are important to me. The United States hosted both Summer and Winter Games. In 1932, what a great year. It's hosted more games than any other country, 8 times, 4 times each for the Summer and Winter Games. And that's so, to me, it's part of who we are. I know we want sports back, but we got to stay healthy. The 1904 Summer Olympics in St. Louis, the 1932 Summer Olympics, and 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, and the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. You think about that. 1932 Winter Olympics, 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, New York, the 1960 Winter Olympics in Squaw Valley, California, and the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's so important for our culture. Los Angeles, California is going to host the Summer Olympics for a 3rd time in 2028, making that the 9th time that the United States has hosted the Olympic Games. That means some athletes from all over the universe coming to the United States. The United States has won the most gold and overall medals in their Summer Olympic Games, even the most medals total of the Soviet Union and Russia when they combine, and topped the medal table 17 times. The country has won the 2nd most gold and overall medals in the Winter Olympic Games behind Norway. I mean, that's so important. I love the fact that we have sports. It's amazing how our country galvanizes around sports. And we got to make sure, if we really care about our athletes, from Olympics to Little League and all in between, colleges, men's and women's league, you pay the women the same amount of money that you pay men for the same efforts. We got to do that. Because if we don't do that, then we're not being true to who we are. And I love the fact that we have this whole thing of sports where the people are racing around. We can't wait until race cars start up again, Big C. We're going to have some racing going on soon. Formula One, the Grand Prix series, the Motor Grand Prix, we're going to have that coming up soon. Everybody loves that. Think about the guys like Mario Andretti and Kenny Roberts and like anybody else that loves drag racing, or cars that go fast. Even if I go back to your neck of the woods, Big C, Smokey and the Bandit, the late Burt Reynolds and Jackie Gleason. That's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Smokey and the Bandit. It's amazing. They love racing too, Big C. Everybody loves Smokey and the Bandit. In fact, I loved it. I can't remember how many times I laughed when Jackie Gleason went into a restroom and he was going to get down and have a burger. And Burt Reynolds said, "No, Sheriff, you don't have to pay for that burger." He said, "Well, Sheriff, you must be in a hurry." I'm just paraphrasing. He said, "What do you after, some cat burglars?" And Jackie Gleason said, "Burglar? I'm talking about some real bad boys. You know, some real bad guys." And I use some choice words that I can't use for the Big C Sports Show. But that goes back to when I was a little boy and watching that. I think it's so important that we bring that back together again. We all know we love it. We all know that we miss it. It's just about a matter of time before sports gets back on its feet again. I'm here in Northern California, home of the San Francisco 49ers. defending NFC champions. We have the 3-time World Series champion in the San Francisco Giants. Also, you have the Golden State Warriors have won 3 NBA titles over the last several years. And they were in Oakland, now they're over in San Francisco. I know people love the game. You have Cal and Stanford. You have the San Jose Sharks, University of San Francisco. Santa Clara, Cal State East Bay. There's a lot of sports in the Bay Area. St. Mary's College. You go up the road to I-80. You have UC Davis, Sacramento State, University Pacific. There's a lot of things that people love sports. Sacramento Kings. The Oakland A's, they've won championships back in the day. They may get a new stadium. Who knows what's going to happen now with all the COVID-19 matters that are happening that are affecting our country. I know a lot of people just want to stay safe no matter what they do with the sports. But it's all great, and I know we love it. I love it so much. I just want to make sure that I talk about it, and I miss it too. But I don't want to see kids, young boys being rushed back to play just for old men to get some joy and some laughter out of it. I don't want to see that happen. The United States Olympic Committee, the USOC, is the National Olympic Committee for the United States. U.S. athletes have won a total of 2,522 medals, 1,022 of them being gold medals, Big C. That's incredible. I know our country loves sports. I just think it's amazing what sports has done to bring our society together. And we'll get that again. Most medals have been won in the sports of athletics, track and field. Think about that. 801 medals, 32%. In swimming, 553 medals, 22%. Americans has dominated in the world of sports. It's not just being jingoistic. We have the medals to prove it. No matter what problems we have, we've always fought to overcome them. I think that's so important. Everybody has sports in their DNA in the United States, from amateurism to professional sports. We all got to do one thing. We got to make sure the athletes are healthy if they're going to play. And that means it's more important than just getting out there playing the game. From golf to football to baseball, it's all fair and love and war. We love it. We just saw the NFL draft. It was a little bit different. But we got it. We got through it. And we'll get through this also. Dr. Fauci and other scientists, they say that remdesivir has shown promise in treating COVID-19. I hope and pray that scientists will get together and figure that out, along with other treatments. They had a study where 125 people were, I guess, almost at the state of they were going to pass away. And they gave them this remdesivir, and I believe studies show that 113 were able to get cured or at least get well enough to be released. 113 out of 125. That's incredible. That's light at the end of the tunnel. It didn't make it perfect, but they didn't pass away either. That's a study that's out there. And I hope that we can get more people some help and some treatment without having them wait until everything's perfect. There's no cure for blood pressure, no cure for diabetes, but they can treat it. We can do the same thing with so many other things going on in our society. I love sports too. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on 2 apps that I love called Google. Or Alexa, just say Google. Or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV, on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. And when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV. Just like car dealerships do it, McDonald's does it, and sports teams do it too. Watch TV work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Really looking forward to that. I know there's so much going on in this great world of sports that we love it so much, but we got to make sure that people are doing whatever we can to stay safe. If you're not safe, if you're not healthy, then who cares if you're playing a game, especially if you're the athlete that they're putting out there. No one should have to go through that and be forced or coerced to do something that's not healthy for them. The NBA pushes back draft combine and the lottery draft. They also have some things that happen. NBA team presidents operating with intent to resume the season. I know we talk about that. Those are grown men. They're not minors. And grown men, for the most part, can do what they want to do. I just hope that they keep the athletes safe. We've already had some players that tested positive for COVID-19. I believe most all of them have recovered. It would be great to find out of the guys who have recovered, where they are, what their status is, because that to me would be really important to know what's going on with them. I would love to see that. And I know if we could just figure out for the people who've gotten better, have them come out and tell us what happened to them. Did they really get better? Because if that's the case, we all need to know about it. I think just like we want to see cars racing around the track again, we want to see those things. And it's going to happen soon. It's going to happen soon. But let's keep everybody healthy. That's the main thing. Big C, as we always say, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. And he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. And as I say, Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe? And I know your answer would be, you want to thank our first responders, all the doctors and the nurses that are doing their very best to keep people healthy and to keep them safe. That's amazing. I just think that's incredible that we have so many people that are willing to put themselves on the line to make sure that we're all safe. We all got to do that. There's a lot of sports that have been canceled because of COVID-19. At the same time, there's a lot of people who are happy and healthy because they practice the social distancing. We got to always make sure we do that. We got to do what it takes to keep everybody happy and healthy alive. So whether you love rugby, whether you love cricket, from soccer to figure skating to skiing, if you love the Olympics, especially the track and field, whether it's cycling, from horse racing to boxing, it's all been put on the Big C pause. Tennis has been put on pause. Auto racing has been put on pause. Golf, that's been put on pause. WNBA is on the pause, Big C. NCAA women's basketball, NCAA men's basketball, college football, NHL hockey, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, it's all been put on the Big C pause because they want to make sure we're healthy and safe and healthy, wealthy, and wise. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911 because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.